Hello everyone and welcome to a new series that I'm calling James's Jank House. The idea behind this series is it's a month until rotation happens and standard's getting a little stale. There's only so much Kethis combo, Scapeshift and vampires that we can handle, and in times like these you need a breath of fresh air, and I'm here to deliver it right to your eyeballs. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Also, as an extra bit of difficulty, the first part of this video is going to be me building the deck from scratch. No filthy net decking involved. Accumulated knowledge cannot guarantee that these decks have not already been built online in some form. For first go, I decided to go for something tried and true with the tribal deck. Icon of Ancestry seems like a pretty neat power from the new core set, so that seems like a good place to start. I had a quick browse through all the different tribes on Arena, and there seems to be some good lord effects for pretty much everything. With that in mind, there's really only one natural choice. Yes, goblins. If they're good enough for Legacy, they must be good enough for Standard, right? They're really not good enough for Legacy though. So my general strategy for brewing is just to add everything you want in and make the cuts later, so that usually results in monstrosities like this one. So this is what I came up with, and not gonna lie, some of the decisions and cuts were made to preserve my rare wildcard stocks, but it was mostly due to curve and playability. So the biggest omission you can see here is the lack of Goblin Chainwhirler, and that's mostly because of the 3-drop slot just being so stacked. You've got Krinko, you've got Icon of Ancestry, you've got Legion Warboss and Goblin Warchief. I feel like these cards are powerful enough that we can omit Chainwhirler. Also, we only have 2 of each 4 and 5 drop, and I really wanted to add more of the ringleaders, but they were just kind of clunky. The card advantage is nice, but we're not really all about that. We just kind of want to kill people fast. And while the Goblin Trashmaster is a lord, he is also a 4-drop, and we are playing too few lands to reliably cast him, so we're just putting him down to 2. Now, one of the better things we've put in this deck, I think, is Skirk Prospector, because that's going to enable one of the, I think, the more powerful plays that we can do here, which is turn 2 Legion Warboss. Some decks will just outright fold to this play, and it's going to steal us some wins. Another include that I really like is the Goblin Warchief, and some people might be thinking, well, it's just a 3-mana 2-2, and Standard's pretty powerful right now, this should be outclassed. But the haste really helps make Krinko a lot better and Legion Warboss, and the discount helps us put out our 4 and 5 drops. So I think it's definitely worth putting 4 in here. In the sideboard we've got 2 shocks just to help for early aggression and removal. We've got 3 fries to help for blue decks and stuff like that, get rid of planeswalkers. Some lava coils are also some more removal. Tybalt to get rid of life gain, like from Esper and stuff like that. Chandra's also a really good anti-control card. And Cosmotronic Wave's a bit of a weird one, but I figured I'd try it against Scapeshift decks just to see if, you get that last quick hit in. And before we get into the matches, could we just get a quick memorial to all the rare wildcards I spent on this deck, and also to all the packs that I ripped open in order to get those wildcards. Magic Arena really has a great system for when you want to build a deck that you don't own. Game 1, our 7 is a bit mediocre with 2 lands and heaps of 3 drops, so we mulligan. And we get a great 6 with the fabled turn 2 Legion Warboss, so we keep and bottom a mountain. Our opponent plays a mountain and we cry, because our Warboss is definitely going to get shocked when we play it. We play our Prospector and it gets shocked, so we're kind of stuck with 2 lands and 3 3+ drops, which is a great start. I'm kind of already regretting putting that mountain on the bottom of our library. Our opponent reveals that they're on Gruul midrange and we continue to draw non-land cards. We draw our mountain and finally get to play our Krinko since he's the least hasty one of our 3 drops. We take 8 damage. We draw another Warboss and play Warchief in the hopes of playing Trashmaster next turn and swinging for a bunch. We attack for 2 and make some goblins. Our opponent plays Domri and elects to fight our Ember Hauler. This means we have to do some extra chump blocking to trade for this Gruul Spellbreaker. At this point we're at 1 life and can't stop this Phoenix from coming over, but Trashmaster gives us a pretty impressive board. Just think, if we hadn't missed that land drop we might have actually done pretty well. We go to sideboards, I bring in 2 Lava Coil and 2 Cosmotronic Waves to attack through the big stuff, and we cut 2 Firebrands and 2 Ringleaders because they seem a bit less effective here. In game 2 our 7 is a 1-lander, so we can't keep that. Opponent mulligans 2, and we have another turn 2 Warboss in our 6, so we keep that. I decided to bottom the Firebrand just because of our last game giving us too few lands. On turn 1 I play Skirk Prospector, and then when it gets to turn 2, instead of playing Legion Warboss, I decided to play this Ember Hauler that we drew because I can smell a shock on the other side. And of course Ember Hauler gets instantly shocked. Then on turn 3 we land Warboss, who immediately sends his guy in to die, and then dies himself to a lightning strike. We top deck an Instigator and take some hits from the opponent's Goblin. Bloody traitor. We just keep drawing lands and we end up lava coiling Growth Chamber Guardian. At this point I feel like they're very advantaged in the top deck war and on board. Eventually all I manage to do is poke them a few times before they remove my last blocker and I concede. So not the best start, but I feel like that's not enough to condemn the deck yet. It's on to match 2. In game 1 I mulligan to try and find a less land heavy one, and immediately see a 5-lander. I keep because I reckon Warboss is pretty strong and can carry me through. We draw a mountain, and another one. Then drawing a 2-drop on turn 3 rubs salt into the wounds. Our opponent spitfires our first Warboss, then plays Kefnet. Flame Sweep wipes out our second Warboss. After we play our Instigator, opponent finds another Spitflame and a Crackling Drake, and we keep drawing lands, so I send it to game 2. In sideboarding we bring in 3 Fries to deal with their big blue guys, and we bring in 2 Chandras in order to kind of battle through their controlling stuff. For game 2 we have a solid 7 of Instigator into Icon and then Trashmaster. The opponent spends most of their time drawing cards and our board gets really big really fast. Our Trashmaster eats a Lava Coil but we slam a second Icon. The turn after we play double War Chief and swing for lethal. Our opponent missing out on double red really bites them here. In game 3 our opener's a bit slow but the spell seems strong enough to make up for that, so we keep. So on turn 2 we draw and play Prospector. Then on turn 3 we land Krenko and ping in for 1. The opponent really likes drawing cards and they lightning strike Krenko. On turn 4 we draw lands, so I decide I want to get 2 spells out. So I play a Warboss and sack the token that he makes and skirt Prospector in order to play Icon. This play seems like not that much value on the face of it because Warboss gets Lava Coiled, but I think the upside would have been a pretty strong board state. Let me know what you think. Should I have left those 2 goblins on board and played Icon next turn maybe? We draw land number 5 and slam Siege Gang, which is pretty good versus opponent's Cerulean Drake since it's so wide. On their turn the opponent plays Eyes Everywhere. I reckon we can deal with this pretty well because we have the Siege Gang commander on board and he can just sacrifice anything they try to gain control of. We start sending it in with our tokens, so they unsummon one, and we shock their elemental in response. I decide to leave up either the commander or Icon ability in case of the Eyes Everywhere activation. On their turn the opponent plays Crackling Drake, so I activate Icon for another Siege Gang commander. On our turn we play Krenko and fry the Drake. And then I decide to send a message with the commander, and totally don't just accidentally attack into a protection from red creature. On the opponent's turn, Krenko gets Banefired? Okay, well we shock the opponent in response. Then we play a second commander, and the flunging begins, now that we have enough disposables. The opponent plays some more flyers, so we just draw another goblin, but they're actually dead on board, so we just attack with all. And with that, Goblins has its first match win. It's the deciding match here for the old Goblins, and here we have a 1-lander on the 7, so that's a mulligan, and our 6-card hand seems fine. All we have to do is draw 1 more land and we can play this Icon. Worst case scenario, we just sacrifice a Goblin to play it. I put a Fanatical Firebrand on the bottom, and turn 1 we lead with Skirk Prospector to guarantee the turn 3 Icon. Our plans are thwarted by the ever-beloved turn 2 Thought Erasure. Okay, now we're in for the real deal here, Esper Control. Time to really test what this Goblin deck can do. With no more Icon, all we can do is just play a bunch of 1/1s and hope it works. We draw another land, so I just play 2 Firebrands. We're safe for now versus Kai's Wrath since they don't have the right mana at the moment, so we just flunge. Our opponent plays Elite Guard Mage. That's a bit of a roadblock. We draw Krenko, and I decide to keep flunging since we only lose a Prospector in the process. On their turn they play another Guild Mage. Now we're really walled off. We draw Ember Hauler, and I reckon it's time to play some desperation moves here. I attack with 2 1/1s, and my opponent blocks them both, walking right into my trap as I 4-for-1 myself to clear these 2 3s. Yeah, we got this now. Nope we don't. Third mage is too much for us to handle. Turns out 2-3 is a real painful stat to deal with for me. We go to sideboards, I bring in the Fries and the Chandras, and 2 of the Tybalts. I couldn't really find room for the third Tybalt, so we probably could swap him out for a different card in the sideboard to give us more options. Game 2, our 7 is a 5-lander, so just have to mulligan it. Our 6 is solid. If we don't lose this Icon, then we have a pretty easy time I reckon. So I just bottom this Volley Veteran. We get to turn 2 and we draw a second Icon, so I feel pretty safe in this. The inevitable thought erasure happens and takes one of our icons, of course. Luckily we still have the second icon, so I slam it on turn 3. Our Ember Hauler dies and we start deploying 3 3s with haste. The opponent plays 3 mana Teferi and bounces our icon. Next turn we play a second War Chief and Teferi bites it. On their turn the opponent plays Hero of Precinct 1, but we just attack for 6. Then Big Tef comes down, but he just draws a card. Opponent has a false sense of security here. I attack all at face, which they chump block. I then fry the Teferi. Big Tef comes back and bounces our War Chief, and Hero comes down a little late to the party. Oops indeed. We play a second icon and swing for lethal, so they have to chump it. Opponent desperately plays another big Teferi to bounce our last goblin, but we just draw it again with icon, and swing. Hold. Hold. Our opponent has nothing! I can taste victory coming. In game 3 our opener's pretty solid, and we even draw a 1-drop on turn 1 to even out the curve. Hero comes down on turn 2. I could theoretically sacrifice Prospector and Ember Hauler to kill it, but I don't think it's really that big of a deal. We play Instigator. On their turn, Oath of Kaya kills our Skirk Prospector. I actually misplay here. If I'd sacrificed the Prospector, they wouldn't have gained 3 life. We continue to ignore Hero and slam Icon. We're actually kind of outclassing the Hero with our tokens here. Our opponent plays a Guard Mage, which we kinda have to deal with. We draw a Veteran and cast our first one to remove the Guard Mage. This means we're free to attack. The opponent has a follow-up Guild Mage, but we have a follow-up Veteran. We attack with all and they double block our Veteran. I can feel like that must mean a Wrath is coming, but instead they just use double removal spells, so they must not have one. We have a small board, but Icon starts rebuilding us. I feel pretty ahead here. When opponent plays Big Teferi, we just ignore it. I play a Warboss and swing all at face. A 3 mana Tef comes down, but he's pretty bad against such a wide board. Our opponent concedes to our lethal board state. Hey, we beat a real deck! So you know what that means, we can put Goblins at tier 1 in the video thumbnail. Get on that, Chris. Honestly, this deck has been really fun to play. I would say give it a go, but it's not very long for this world. Though, if you are feeling bored and historic, maybe... I hope you all enjoyed this, I certainly did. Be sure to keep an eye out for more gameplay coming up. Once Throne of Eldraine drops, we'll be going crazy. There may also be some Brawl content coming up too. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.